Welcome back to another episode of Play Action Fantasy Football. We got the wide receiver start sit videos today. If you haven't liked and subscribed already on our channel, make sure you do so here at either now or at the end of the video. Either way goes a long way for us. If you have any questions in the comments, hit us with that and we'll get back to you as soon as we can as well. But other than that, let's jump right into the video. Kicking us off, we got Thursday Night Football, Tennessee Titans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And DeAndre Hopkins finally has a quarterback, or at least it seems that way. So for right now, DeAndre Hopkins, I'm going to go ahead and put him as a start. Now, he is questionable coming into this game, but I do like the potential here as Will Levis is the starting quarterback. So I expect him to continue to hopefully find DeAndre Hopkins here. I do believe that is a connection that could help. Will Levis is DeAndre Hopkins here. So for that reason, it seems like right out the gate they had that connection. He's going to be a start for me in this one. Traylon Burks and Westbrook is going to be a sit for me in this one. Steelers side of the ball, though, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, they were originally listed as cautionary starts for me with Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback, but now Kenny Pickett is going to be the quarterback, so go ahead and throw them both in your lineup. I like the opportunity here. They're both starts. Allen Robinson, on the other hand, go ahead and sit him. Moving on, you got the Dolphins and the Chiefs, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I'm going to go ahead and start both these guys here. This is a game in Germany. There is no home field advantage for either one of these teams here, especially not it being an Arrowhead either. That's a big plus for Miami. So Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are starts for me. Chase Claypool's a sit. Rashee Rice for the Chiefs is going to be a start for me in this one. Every other receiver is going to be a sit. They just spread the ball around way too much. The only receiver that is getting a consistent amount of targets is Rashee Rice. He did not have a good game last week because Mahomes did not have a good game last week. Better yet, the whole team didn't have a good week last week. But nevertheless, Miami is 18th against wide receivers, and I like Rashee Rice in the situation. He did have 4 catches for 5 targets and 56 yards last week, so that is a plus there. So make sure he's in your lineup. I would put him more at a flex position with some of the buys that we have this week. And now we got the Vikings and the Falcons kicking off our 1 o'clock games here. Vikings are without Kirk Cousins, and that's going to be a huge blow to the wide receivers. However, there's only one wide receiver that I think has enough potential and enough talent to potentially bounce back from an injury at his quarterback position for him, and that's going to be Jordan Addison here. I do like Jordan Addison's upside in this matchup. The Falcons have been giving up a decent amount of points as of lately. They are still 6-2 wide receivers when it comes to points given up. The last 2 games have been a little bit of a different story. Now, that being said, Jordan Addison is a cautionary start, more of a flex, low-end wide receiver to play for me this week. KJ Osborne and Brandon Powell both sits. Falcons side of the ball, Drake London is questionable, and he is a cautionary start. The reason is a cautionary start is if he does play, he gets a better quarterback in Taylor Heineke. Love that. But it's a groin injury. And 1 or 2, tackles near the upper thigh area, that's going to end up causing some issues with the groin. So I don't know if he'll be able to last the whole game if he does play. But if he does play, again, cautionary start. He's a low-end wide receiver too. Flex play for me in this matchup. Matt Collins and Van Jefferson, though, are both going to be sits. Now you got the Bears and the Saints here, and this is going to be a good matchup as well. DJ Moore is going to be a start for me in this one. I know that's going to be a little bit of controversy here with that because he is going up against Marshawn Lattimore, and that is going to be an issue as he has shut down a couple of good wide receivers so far this year. Now, DJ Moore is going to have the volume there. That's why he is a start for me. He's more of a wide receiver 2 start for me in this matchup. Regardless if they fall behind in this game, he's going to be the guy that Bajent is going to continue to target. So for that reason, DJ Moore as a start. Darnell Mooney and Tyler Scott are both sits. Saints side of the ball, though, you got Chris Olave and Michael Thomas. They're both starts for me in this one. And Rashid Shaheed is going to be a cautionary start as he did have a big play potential last week and he did cash in on a touchdown. So a matchup against the Bears here, I do think that is a cautionary start. He is more of a flex and flex only play. However, Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, they're more of a wide receiver 2 role for me or wide receiver 1 depending on who you have on your team. Moving on now, you get the Rams and the Packers. No Matthew Stafford, and you're going to get Brett Ripon here for the Rams. Cooper Kupp is going to be a cautionary start for that reason. If you don't have a choice, I don't blame you on starting him. That's kind of something that you have to roll with. Unfortunately, we don't know what that connection is going to look like. We don't know what upside that could bring, and Puka Nacua is questionable as well. So if Puka Nacua is out, then Cooper Kupp becomes an automatic start because he's going to get the targets going his way. However, for Puka Nacua, he's a cautionary start regardless if he plays. I mean, he's starting to fall back here, and that had a lot to do with Matthew Stafford and the way he's been playing with that injury. So, Tutu Atwell, though, for me is going to be a sit in this one. Moving on to the Green Bay Packers side of the ball, you got Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. They're both cautionary starts for me. Watson had 3 catches, 8 targets, 33 yards last week. The targets are there. No production, though, unfortunately, as of right now from Watson. Romeo Doubs, on the other hand, had 4 catches, 9 targets. Again, the volume is there, but 18 yards. That's not what you want to see with the yardage. He did cash in on a touchdown. Now, that is 2 straight weeks he has caught a touchdown, and they're starting to target him more in the red zone. So that is more of a flex play if you need him this week for Romeo Doubs. Christian Watson is more of a flex wide receiver 2 play for me this week, and then Jaden Reed is going to be a sit as well. Now you got the Commanders and the Patriots, and oh boy, the Patriots are dealing with some injuries. But before we can jump into that, Washington, Terry McLaurin. I'm going to go ahead and start Terry McLaurin here. This is a good opportunity for him to have a really good game in this matchup. Now, Terry McLaurin has had some ups and some downs, but last week he had 5 catches, 12 targets. The volume is there, and I love that. 63 yards and a touchdown. So McLaurin's kind of starting to fall back into his role here, and especially the way Sam Howell's playing, I like the opportunity. Jahan Dotson, on the other hand, 8 catches, 10 targets, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, I like that. The only issue is it's the first time he's actually put up a decent amount of points, I think, since week 3. So Jahan Dotson's been very inconsistent. He had a really good game as they were in the lead early, but then they had to keep throwing to kind of stay in the lead against the Eagles as they started to blow it on the defensive side of the ball. So Jahan Dotson, cautionary start for me in this one. Curtis Samuel is questionable, so he's going to be a sit for me in this one as well. Now moving on to the Patriots side of the ball, Demario Douglas immediately came in and got targets. 5 catches, 7 targets, 25 yards. He took targets immediately out of this group. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be a sit, and Devontae Parker are going to be a sit, especially with Parker having a questionable tag. But Demario Davis, if you absolutely need a guy, and it's tough to say, this is more if you're in like a 12 or 14, 16-man league, Demario Douglas, might be more of a guy that I would put in as a flex play and flex play only. Moving on now, we have the Seahawks and the Ravens. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett are both going to be starts for me in this one. Ravens are the 24th in the league in fantasy terms when it comes to wide receiver points given up. So both those guys are starts for me. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba is kind of coming into his own here. He's a cautionary start for me, more of a flex play if you need him. But Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf should be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 locks for you, depending on who else you have. Ravens side of the ball, though, Zay Flowers is an automatic start. The other guys, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, Odell Beckham, sit them all. And it's tough to say that, especially when they're going up against Seattle, who gives up the most amount of points to wide receivers so far this year. But unfortunately, none of these guys have produced for the Ravens other than Zay Flowers. Moving on now, you get the Buccaneers and the Texans. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans are both going to be starts for me in this one. Baker Mayfield, especially if he plays, they're both starts for me. Now, if Kyle Trask starts in this game, I'm going to go ahead and put them both as cautionary starts. They are up against the Texans, who are 22nd against the pass, so they do have a lot of upside in this matchup, and both guys caught touchdowns last week, and both had 6 targets or more. Mike Evans, 3 catches, 6 targets, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Godwin was 5 catches on 7 targets, 54 yards, and a touchdown, and that's definitely something I absolutely like in here. Trey Palmer, on the other hand, is going to be a sit for me. Now, on the other side of the ball, you have the Texans, and Nico Collins did not make my top 30 for one reason and one reason only. It's because they held Stephon Diggs to 16 points. For Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs versus C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, yeah. However, that secondary for the Bucs can give up some decent amount of points, and Nico Collins is definitely the main guy for C.J. Stroud in this offense. They did have a tough matchup last week against the Panthers, which he did not do well against. Now, the Buccaneers are slightly worse than the Panthers when it comes to points given up. I know that's hard to believe considering that they just only held Stephon Diggs to about 16 points, and he should be in the 20s in the type of matchup like that. However, Nico Collins, again, is going to be a start for me. Tank Dell's going to be a cautionary start, and Robert Woods is a sit in this matchup. Ending our 1 o'clock games now, you got the Cardinals at the Browns, and Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, Michael Wilson. Sit every single one of them until Kyler Murray comes back. All 3 of these guys are going to be sits for me, especially with Clayton Tune instead of Josh Dobbs, who was just traded away at starting quarterback. Opposite side of the ball, though, I'm going to start Amari Cooper. He's getting the targets regardless. Now, P.J. Walker was his quarterback last 3 weeks, I should say. Capitalized on a good performance in the first week with P.J. Walker. Second week, not so much. This past week, 6 catches, 11 targets, and 89 yards. The Browns know they have to get the ball to Cooper somehow, some way. And if he can rack up those catches, that's going to help in PPR leagues. So Amari Cooper is going to be a start. Now Elijah Moore is going to be a sit, and no Donovan Peoples-Jones as he was traded to the Lions at the trade deadline. So Marquise Goodwin or Cedric Tillman are going to step in here. I think they're going to give it to the veteran to kind of mentor Cedric Tillman. So Marquise Goodwin is going to be the third receiver in this set. I'm going to go ahead and sit him in as well in this matchup. Moving on to our 4 o'clock games, you got the Colts and the Panthers. Michael Pittman and Josh Downs are both going to be starts for me in this one. And then Alec Pierce is going to be a sit. Pittman is averaging 17.6 points per game over the last 3 weeks. Same thing goes for Josh Downs, except for he's averaging 17 points a game over those 3 weeks. So both these guys are coexisting, and I absolutely love the product that both these guys are getting with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, and they are definitely proving it on the field. They did struggle again on defense against the Saints at the end as they blew it. However, that has nothing to do with these receivers and how they produce, and I absolutely love the production we're getting from all these guys, except for Alex Pierce. Panther side of the ball, Adam Thielen's going to be a start for me, and Jonathan Mingo is actually going to be a cautionary start for me. Mingo has had 10 points in 2 out of 3 games so far, last 3 games. 2 out of the last 3 games. He had 4 catches on 5 targets for 62 yards. That's good production, and with some of the buys that we have this week, I wouldn't mind him putting him as a pickup and putting him at flex in this situation. So I like the opportunity there. Also with Thielen, you do have a score in 4 out of his last 7 or 4 out of 7 games this year, which is definitely a good production for him, as he also had 8 catches, 11 targets, and 72 yards last week against the Texans. Now Terrence Marshall and DJ Chark are going to be sits for me in this matchup. Moving on now, you have the Giants and the Raiders, and every single Giants receiver is going to be a sit again. Anytime I think one is going to eventually start to break out with the quarterback and Tyrod Taylor goes down, and then you got another rookie quarterback in there, and now we have another situation with the wide receivers. Yeah, I don't know what the situation is going to be now with the quarterback, other than if any of them play, sit them. So, same thing with the wide receivers in this situation. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers are both going to be cautionary starts for me. If you have them and you absolutely need to play them, it's kind of hard to say to sit Devontae Adams, but he hasn't had a good quarterback either. So, that's the reason why it's hard to say that. Now that he actually has what is supposed to be the best quarterback they have on that roster in Aiden O'Connell. So, we'll see what Devontae Adams actually has, and Jacoby Myers could benefit from that as well. So, both those guys are starts for me in this one, and Hunter Renfrow is going to be a sit as well in this one. Moving on, you got the Cowboys and the Eagles. CeeDee Lamb will be a start for me in this one, and Brandon Cooks is going to be a cautionary start. CeeDee Lamb, there's no explanation needed there, but Brandon Cooks had a back-to-back weeks, which they played a game with a touchdown. He had it right before they went to bye against the Chargers, and then he had it last week against the Rams. So they're starting to get Cooks involved more, which is a very good thing for the wide receivers, especially if you're a CeeDee Lamb fantasy owner. That's going to open him up for more deep balls down the field, as he can definitely convert on those. Michael Gallup, on the other hand, is going to be a sit for me in this one. And then A.J. Brown's a start. Not much needed to say there. I mean, the dude is hitting over 100 yards of receiving, 125, I believe, over the last 4 or 5 straight games. That is unbelievable for A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith is going to be a cautionary start in this one, and Julio Jones is going to be a sit. Smith did capitalize last week on 7 catches, 7 targets, 99 yards, and a touchdown. Is he finally back? We'll have to wait and see. Moving on, you got the Sunday night game, Bills and Bengals. This is going to be an all-out shootout, in my opinion. I absolutely love these receivers in this game. Stephon Diggs is a start. Gabe Davis is a cautionary start for me in this one. And Deontay Hardy is going to be a sit. Now, on the Bengals side of the ball, Jamar Chase finally has a healthy Joe Burrow, it seems like. Joe Burrow is playing lights out, and he finally has a connection with Jamar Chase. Start Jamar Chase. And for T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, they both scored 10 points or more last game against the 49ers. They're finding ways to get both these guys the ball, so there's not just a clear-cut number 2 guy anymore. Both these guys could be potentials as a flex play against the Bills this week, and I like the opportunity for both of them in this matchup. And ending it, you get the Chargers and Jets here. You do have Keenan Allen as a start, and you have Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer as sits. Palmer had a little bit of a knee tweak, and I don't like the opportunity of him playing against the Jets here, who are 8th against the wide receivers. That could be an issue here. Justin Herbert is going to sling the ball. It's just Keenan Allen's the only one that can consistently produce right now. Jets side of the ball, though, Garrett Wilson had a really good week last week. He had 7 catches, 13 targets, and 100 yards with Zach Wilson at quarterback. Now they're going up against the Chargers, who are 30th against the pass, or they have 30th against points given up to wide receivers. I like the opportunity for Garrett Wilson. Now, Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb are kind of an afterthought. It's kind of just the Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall show for Zach Wilson at quarterback in the Jets. So sit those two, and then Garrett Wilson is a start. But that's going to do it for wide receiver start sit videos for Week 9. Look out for the rest of the videos later in the week. We'll catch you later.